Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Conquer the Clutter podcast for February the 19th. I don't know what weather you have where you are, but we've had a winter wonderland here. We're very happy, however, that the winter wonderland has stopped. We got probably, I don't think I'm exaggerating, 2.5, 3 feet of snow inside of about 48, 72 hours. And winds up to 75 kilometers an hour. They were just swirling. So if any of you missed that, we want to live where you are. Anyway, enough having fun. All right, so today we're going to talk about the power of the sales pitch and how to avoid it being used against our free will, and getting hooked by it, but also maybe some of the background story to the development of that sales pitch and the beliefs and ideas that salespeople are really trained on and impressed on for success. They have a beneficial opportunity. They give us that thinking pattern gives us a beneficial. Um, there are things to be learned. So I want us to get both sides of that equation. All right. So I want to give you a bit of an understanding alert. All right. So picture yourself as a player in the following scenarios. And if you can realize what is really going on, this is the start of taking back your self-control about acquiring. And once you've acquired, convincing yourself that the best choice is to hold on to things, even though they've not seen the light of day for a very long time. No judgment in that statement, honestly, but just ask yourself, what does that truly mean? This information, just so that you're sure about it, is not meant to convince you to get rid of everything. All right? It's meant simply to support you in making considered decisions. All right, so we'll start off at the power of the sales pitch. And we're going to do that so that you can see the process of selling as it's playing out, whether by a salesperson that you're considering acquiring something from, or the sales pitch you're telling yourself. All right. And also to be able then, if you are doing a sales pitch on yourself, recognize it in the same light as you would if a salesman outside yourself, a salesperson outside yourself, was doing it to you, and be able to represent yourself and your best needs. All right. As that salesperson, outside or internal, works to meet their needs. All right. So when you do a sales pitch on yourself, know this: you are not representing your needs. You're representing generally an insecurity, a fear, a value, a belief, something that is counterproductive. Now, selling can be about selling you on a thing or an idea. The fact is that the salesperson's income is based on, when it's an outside person, is based on the possibility of doing one thing. And that is a well-known benefit in sales. Reaching the top 20% of the salespeople in their unit. And that generally means never having to worry about money or job security again. You will always be preferred by whoever hired you. All right. If you can reach and stay in the top 20%. Now, if you learn to sell one product, it positions you very, very well to sell just about any other product, because the benefit or the power isn't in the product, it's in the selling method. Just as when we do that to ourselves, a sales pitch to do something counterproductive for ourselves, it isn't in the benefit we're going to get. It's in the method we deliver that message. All right. So we actually don't end up with a benefit, but we buy our own sales pitch. And it's also attached to the positive quality of our self-concept. So when you do it often enough, you develop a confidence in that. When you buy from the same salesperson and it has worked out well enough, the next item that you consider buying from them, you have more confidence. All right. Your concept is that you are being well represented. Their self concept is you're a really great buyer. All right. And this self concept is just another phrase for self-esteem and self-confidence. Be really careful about what you are developing confidence in. If you're representing yourself accurately, fairly, you are actually representing what your need is. You're on sound ground. But how often do you buy the sales pitch on yourself or someone else and not get your needs met? All right. All right. So if you're the top salesperson, that external, you can be among the highest paid people in your community. So when you're experiencing this from another, there's a lot of pressure on that person. All right. Because it's in its own field, selling, where you start, you really start with very little skill or training, the average salesperson, right? The best salespeople know that there is not just one selling type or one selling personality that succeeds, but many. Good sales techniques are bullseye aimed at only increasing the sale of any product or service. And that's based on the quality of the sales pitch. Now, you can identify with that yourself, I'm sure. Sometimes when you give yourself a sales pitch, you are left wondering, really, is that the best? So that can happen internally when you're doing it to yourself, but it can happen if it's not the best quality sales pitch. It's a harder idea, a harder commitment to swallow. But even when it's not the best sales pitch, all right, the persistence, the effort applied can also be an avenue, a road to success, because even the best products without effective salespeople to sell them and the strategies mentioned above, they're not going to be successful. Those products are not going to sell without effective salespeople. In fact, a less desirable product can be sold by very successful salespeople using successful proven strategies. Know this, no matter whether you're doing it to yourself or an outside salesperson is doing it with you are the focus. And at that point, no matter how well you like the person or don't know the person, you in that moment of possible transaction, you are reduced to being a prospect. How does that sit with you? And a prospect for these sales efforts. Now, salespeople also operate on the belief that there's no ceiling. Sky's the limit. And if they're properly trained and they become skilled enough, selling the right product in the right market can often generate an unlimited amount of money. It's all based on being properly trained with the right techniques. Now, Let's talk about the psychology of selling. And that's something that both parties, even if it's an outside salesperson, or it can also be you in your psychological state of mind buying your own sales pitch. All right. Let's talk about the psychology of selling. Selling is really about the 80-20 rule. And the 80-20 rule simply says that 80% of the sales are done by 20% of the salespeople. All of this information is meant to help you appreciate the pressure those salespeople are under. All right, good people. Nobody's saying they're bad people or that they're necessarily doing anything wrong or dishonest or not telling you the truth. It's about how even a truth, which may not be your best need, right? It might not meet your best need. The pressure and the techniques that can kind of morph it so that it becomes, in that moment anyway, a better fit. So 80% of the sales are done by 20% of the salespeople. That means that 20% of salespeople do 80% of the sales. All right. And the converse of that is also true. The bottom 80% only do 20% of the sales. Those are the people that you generally walk out of the store and don't close the deal. But the people in the top 20% on average earn, get this, I'm just telling you this so you understand what's really happening behind the sales pitch. Those top 20% on average earn 16 times the average of the people at the bottom 80%. And the people, and when they get even better are at it, the people at the top 4% earn, are you holding onto your hats for this one? 54%, 54 times, sorry, more than the bottom 96%. And those are the people that are really good at bringing in the prospect, spotting the prospect. All right, they're not the people who go on lunch or people who let you wander around. They are the people who know how to attach themselves to you and close the deal. Are you starting, though, to see the pressure and the incentives, dare I say, the poor salespeople work in? Now, just for a minute, ask yourself, if you were in that situation, where would you want or need to be to survive? It's a very human response to an opportunity. The second principle is called the winning edge. And the winning edge theory is that the difference between the top performers and the average mediocre, yes, as a social worker, I am appalled to think that people are classified as mediocre or average, but they are in this industry. Yes, when it comes to sales, it's not based on a significant difference between them. So that 4% and the bottom 96%, there's not a lot of difference between those people. And really, it's just a small difference that makes the difference. Keep that in mind as we start applying this to ourselves and the sales pitch we give ourselves, okay? And this small difference is based on doing certain things a certain way. That's the difference. That little tiny bit of difference is done regularly every day. All right. There's a lesson in all of this for us. That tiny bit of difference adds up over day after day. We're talking tiny little bit of difference. All right. day after day after day after day, whether it's a good day, a bad day, the worst day, the best day, it adds up to a quantum difference. It makes the difference. Now, an example of that would be, so stay with me on this one. It was in the book, and I thought, does it apply? And then I thought, you know what? It's a really good image, and it's true. So just stay with me and bear with me on this one. If a horse runs in a race and comes in first by a nose, do you know that the purse, what they're winning, is set up that that horse owner wins 10 times the prize money of the horse that comes in second, even if it's just by a nose? 10 times. Now, does that mean that the horse that comes in first by a nose is 10 times better than the horse that comes in second? No. Does it mean that it's twice as good? 50% better? Does it even mean that it's 10% better? It's a tiny difference. The truth is, it's only a nose better. All right. But the difference in prize money, the difference in reward to yourself for consistency, small, doable, reliable, persistent, consistent, every day, 15 minutes. All right. The difference in the prize money is enormous. It is really, truly. The pressure to close the deal is the proof of the pudding about how good you are. Now, I don't mean that about how valued you should be, but I guess I'm really saying how effective you are being in the goal you set and the dreams you have about the piles and pathways. It also, that little bit of difference is going to dictate what your life is going to be like. The person who gets the sale, and that can be you buying the right sales pitch, gets 100% of the business and 100% of the benefit and enjoyment. The person who does not gets zero. It doesn't mean that the person that does not get the sale is only half as good or not as good or that there's anything wrong with them. Now, if there's something in your way, let's get it out of your way. All right? The person who gets the sale, it just means that they did something a tiny bit different on an ongoing, regular basis. The key to success is to develop that winning edge. Those who develop the winning edge, and listen to this, very rapidly rise to the top 4%, where they then get 54%. Now, this is less about salespeople, and this is more about satisfaction, enjoyment, and self-confidence. And that's a very profitable place to be. So can you see it's highly desirable for the salesperson, even if that's you selling to yourself, to use sales strategies known as the inner game when selling. Now, researchers have looked at successful sales pitches, salespeople, and figured out the most important characteristics that separate them from the bottom level salespeople, the people who feel stuck and remain stuck. And you may be surprised that both extremes cannot be separated based on, and this is true for you folks as well, intelligence, not a factor. Education, not a factor. Level of experience, not a factor. The key element in what's going on inside is inside the mind of the salesperson. That is true for you too. That's where it starts. That's where progress starts. And that is what makes the difference. This is substantiated by a study done by Harvard University of 16,000 salespeople that found that the basic characteristics that determine success or failure in selling, and this can be you to yourself, were in fact psychological qualities that form the belief and conviction that you are excellent at selling. Now, what are you telling yourself? I am excellent at coming up with true sales pitches to myself and setting a pace, setting a schedule that 100% I know I can abide to. There will be many days I don't want to. There will be many days I will try out a different sales pitch on myself. All right. But you know the good sales pitch from the not so good sales pitch. You know it by what you create. And not just that you're excellent at selling, and that to get there, it's most beneficial if you compare yourself in terms of your potential only against, in sales, the highest money makers. In the work to remediate piles and pathways, who is having success and what are they doing differently? That little tiny bit differently, and how regularly. Because whoever is earning the most is no better or fundamentally different than you are. They don't have anything that you don't have. They don't know anything that you can't know. They're not doing, all right, anything that you can't do. There is a comparison here for those with piles and pathways. If I haven't already met it, I think I've beaten it to death here. That all they're doing is doing different things in a slightly different way regularly. And that the average person who's being outsold by the top person, in fact, they probably don't even use more than 10% of their potential, which means that we have at least 90% of our potential still available to us. Where is that potential getting used? What are you doing that uses the other 90% of your potential? What do you think that might mean about us and the potential we have that we're not using? Now, this is not about turning on yourself and blaming. This is about stepping outside of yourself, loving yourself, approving of yourself, respecting yourself. There's nothing wrong with you. All right. There's nothing wrong with you. But maybe what you're doing and where you're putting in percentages of your potential energy and focus, maybe that's not your best sales pitch. The potential that we are not using, and what it would take to unlock that additional 90%. In fact, there is a direct relationship between our self-concept, which is self-confidence, self-respect, and our performance and effectiveness right down right now. When things don't go well, when you make a plan, wake up in the morning and rethink the plan, right now, write it down. What are you saying to yourself? What are you saying to yourself? I'll give you a minute. Now look at it and ask yourself, does that sales pitch deliver? Does it deliver? You know yourself. Scratch it out. Just put a line through it. Now, above it on the paper, if you can, write down what a true doable sales pitch is. It should start, if I can prompt you a little bit, it should start with, I deserve better. I am worth having an environment that when I walk in is comforting and supports me and makes me feel like life's going to be okay. It takes care of me. It's a haven. I deserve that. And I don't need a magic wand, and I don't need to turn my life around on a dime. I don't need to do anything other than one small thing for a doable period of time. The doable period of time just tells you how long it's going to take, but you will be making progress. So when we move out of our comfort zone, here's a thing to keep and your antenna up and tuned to. And we definitely, when we move out of our comfort zone, we definitely enter a state of uncertainty. You know, and that is not prompted, but that generates generally a response like, I better keep it just in case. We go to insurance when we're not sure, right? And just in case is insurance. I can't because I don't have the energy. I don't feel good. I don't, whatever the I can't because is. And those get habituated. And remember before we talked about habituation and the fact that our brain is a data finder and it just goes along, right? Goes along and it finds the thing you did most often in a scenario that is similar enough to this scenario you're looking at. Okay. All right. It's sort of like a sniffer dog. All right. It's going to find the thing that fits with the message. All right. However, when we do that and we have habituated the wrong sales pitch and we bought the sales pitch, all right, we have done another thing that we haven't talked about. We've made going back there not just habituated, but we've made it more comfortable because we know that path. All right. If there are not going to be any hiccups, there are not going to be any setbacks, we're not going to make any progress, but we get more comfortable. And then when we start to challenge those self messages as we move forward into our action phase, not our planning phase, but our action or considering phase, our action phase, what we generate, because it's not a common experience, because we're not doing that tiny bit every day that makes us more comfortable. In the beginning, it doesn't make us comfortable, but over time, it becomes a habit, right? Habits make us feel comfortable. They make us feel on track. But if we habituate the wrong thing, we're getting our comfort and that feeling of security and being in the groove, all right, with the wrong thing. As we move into our action phase, do we generate and feel uncomfortable and uncertain? Of course we do. because it's not a common choice. All right. The action phase activities are not as habituated. So, of course, they're not going to be as comfortable and with feelings of certainty. I know what I'm doing. I know what the next step is. I know what 15 minutes feels like. The first few times you're doing 15 minutes, people, you're looking at the clock every 3 minutes. All right, you are. Is it over? Is it over? Is it over? Is it over? Of course you are. That's why I ask you to set something with an alarm, because you're going to get, if you go for a walk and you walk around the block and it's like 100 feet, all right, you can do 100 feet pretty easily after you've done it 10 times. Yeah. Now, if you go around the block and actually you go the other way, and now it's 50 feet, the first 2 or 3 times, it's not going to feel like home base. All right, it's going to feel like, oh, what was I thinking? But you know what? In very short order, that 50 feet is going to feel like, yeah, no problem. So when we habituate, when we go into the action phase and we set doable, we are not talking marathon. Do not, the first month you do it, do not start thinking, I feel really good. I think I'll just keep going. In fact, I went for 2 hours. You are not going to go back to 2 hours. Nobody gets into the groove and habituates that easily. Do the small, doable, regular thing so that on your worst day when you wake up, you think, you know what? I can do 15 minutes. I may break it up in, if I'm really not feeling well, or I'm really tired, or I'm really upset, I can break it up into 3 5 minutes. But I won't do that often because I want to build my stamina. All right. I want to know that I'm building self-confidence, that I am competent, that when I say I will do 15 minutes, I will do 15 minutes, unless altogether now there is projectile vomiting or a femoral bleed. Okay. Okay. So it's the lesser of a bunch of evils. All right. Then to side with the messages that generate the status quo if we don't regularly develop buy the right sales pitch we're giving ourselves and benefit from it. Then experience and deal with the additional discomfort that's caused by the uncertainty and troubled self-confidence when you break it up. This is all within. There is no one here who doesn't have the ability to do that. All right. It's the little thing we do every day. All right. That is going to get us there and keep us there. Now, that's a truism. However, we can never accomplish more. We can never accomplish more than we experience in our own minds. Think about that one. You want to think long and hard if you are giving yourself negative messages. You want to think that is not the entirety of who you are. That's a feeling. Feelings aren't facts. Feelings are not facts. They're generally the hormonal response to something that's positive or negative. It's the bath of serotonin, dopamine. Okay, that's going to pass. You are more than those messages. We cannot experience more than we experience. We cannot perform. We cannot do more than we experience in our own minds. So you be really careful what you say about yourself. And if you think on a really bad day that, that is true, I want you to add this because this is also true. And that is, today I feel that, but I am more than that. That is not the whole story. And I'm not going to make excuses to make this feel better or understandable. It is what it is. It's not successful. It's not where I want to go. Today was not the best day, but I am more than that. And know as well, if we can imagine it, and I believe this, if we can imagine it, we can do it. And each one of us has a comfortable setting. Back to it feels uncomfortable or it feels comfortable. Each and every one of us has a comfortable setting within our internal personal thermostat. And it's made up of our guiding principles, our rules of life to live by. And if we accomplish more or less than our comfort level thermostat is used to registering, remember habituation, we begin to feel uncertainty and discomfort. That's not reality. It's a feeling. We've added 2 and 2 and got 5. But that is no truer than the horse who won by the nose. Right? It's simply because we're more comfortable doing or undoing something, another behavior. However, like thermostats, we can, with support and the right skills and strategies, we can reset our tolerance and limits. We can. We don't have to be a hero. And we do it by beginning to engage much sooner in correcting behaviors and choices. Success can happen at our doable pace. Now, the pace sometimes changes depending on how you feel, but our doable pace that day breeds more success, and it also breeds more stamina. So that 10-minute walk that was a breeze, the 50-minute walk can become the same experience if we build stamina based on success. And we will accomplish far more in a shorter time than we expected. Now, remember, whenever we move out of our comfort zone, we do start to feel very anxious, and uneasy. So what we have to do is strengthen our self-concept. I can do this. I can do this at my pace, and it will take me a little longer if it's a slower pace, but I can do it. And we do that by reminding ourselves of the times we did make progress on our worst days by becoming more competent and more skilled in those areas. We never feel uneasy doing something that we're good at. We only feel uneasy doing something that we think we're not good at or particularly capable at. And when we're trying to do something new for the first time or the first batch of times, or something that we've had a failure experience with in the past, of course we're going to become anxious and uncomfortable. Of course the flood of the sale, oh, you can't do that. Don't buy the sales pitch. Don't buy the sales pitch. Of course we're going to become anxious because when we think we're not good at something, every step that we take forward reinforces that. Stop, reset the sales pitch, change the pace if you have to, and you will reinforce getting better. And when you reinforce getting incrementally better, it makes us feel more confident. It raises our self-concept and self-respect and confidence. That's how we develop confidence. And you know what? When we get enough there, we can relax a little because we've become more capable. We know also that the self-concept is subjective, and it's made up of the ideas and thoughts that you have about yourself, especially the self-limiting beliefs or ideas. We have, for survival, a negative bias that sets in first. Pack it up and send it back where it came from. Don't accept delivery. Right? None of these are the only reality. None of the limiting beliefs that we have that crop up, none of them, even if they're a little tiny bit partially true at the time, none of them, stop. Braden's going to have to delete you, Ellie, quiet. Sorry, somebody's come to the door. None of these are the only reality about us. And they do not exist in reality. Many of us think that we don't have the ability to do something, or I'm not very good at that, or I'm not particularly skilled at this or that. In reality, it's not the only truth, but we believe it's true for us. As long as you say you're terrible at something, and you believe you're terrible at something, guess what? You will be terrible at it. Guaranteed. All right. If we have self-limiting beliefs, they're based on erroneous information. We will take in that information and we will experience, if we tell ourselves that, not being good at X, Y, and Z. But it's based on our assumption that we're not good at that particular thing. And from then on, whenever we're confronted with that, we assume we're no good. We create no good. Even a stopped clock is right twice a day, people. All right. When our self-concept is low, it will perform poorly. We also know that the core of self-concept, our self-esteem, is a centerpiece in our psychological makeup. The best definition of self-esteem is how much you like, approve, and accept yourself for being less than perfect. And on your good days and bad days, note, I am saying yourself, not your performance. You are more than your performance and what you can create. How much you like yourself is a key determinant. It's a key determinant of your performance and consequently your effectiveness. In everything you do, you can talk yourself out of being good at things you know you're good at, if you buy the sales pitch. Now, how well you do most things throughout your day determines how you live, how well you live, how comfortably you are with, oh gosh, I'm having a bad day, how comfortable you are with what you create. And it determines how well you sell yourself the concept. Be sure about the sales pitch. You can correct the sales pitch and remind yourself, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to have the fixed mindset that I'm only good enough, I'm only good at all if I pass a certain caliber. Try buying on to the growth mindset. That didn't go that well. What do I need to do differently? And if I don't know how to do that, where can I get help with that and support? All right. While I get better at it. So how you sell yourself the concept determines whether you will have an experience of feeling capable and worthy of even of a little success. You come down on yourself enough, you stop believing, you stop hoping that you can create success, because little successes breed more little successes, and more little successes, the more we approach them, build bigger accomplishments. The more we allow ourselves to support ourselves to continue until we reach our goals, having good days, bad days, and indifferent days. We continue until we reach our goals. you and I are really only in competition with ourselves. Never mind who was good at something, who told you you weren't good at something. No, never mind the voices on the committee. All right. We're really only in competition with ourselves. Sell yourself the idea of liking yourself, whether it's been your worst day or your best day. Sell yourself on approving of yourself, being worth and capable of challenging yourself. I have no idea how to do this. It's like me with the printer. All right. I have no idea how to do this. This is not my main bailiwick, but guess what? It's not going to defeat me. What do I need to know? And if I don't understand the instructions, I have learned I can go on YouTube. And there are many days when I tell myself, all right, Elaine, you have a master's degree. All right. Do you know what that means? That means at a basic level, you are at least trainable. This does not have to be an Achilles heel, and this does not have to be a big measure of your success today. Although you would like to choke that, if you could choke a printer, you'd like to choke it. All right now. Okay, take a deep breath. Take a walk around the block. Do whatever you have to blow off this really bad hormonal bath you're in. All right, and start getting organized. What one thing can I do? Because I'm worthy of challenging myself. I am worthy of not letting this thing defeat me and make me feel less than. With the right support, with the right strategies, with the right skills, and no man is an island, okay, resolving years of putting things down rather than away, acquiring based on insurance fears just in case in the form of objects, and housing past and future possible needs in spaces just big enough for today and tomorrow was never going to work. Do that little bit of different a little more often. And so long as you don't put today's work down and let it become tomorrow's problem, you will get there at the same pace as it became the challenge it is. You managed to make it a challenge. All right, took the same effort to pick the thing up and put it down and leave it and be nagged about it every time you look at the piles and handle that. That's a far higher price than picking one thing up a day and resolving it. And if you can't get there, there's something getting in the way, ask for help. This may not be a one-person job any longer. In physical terms or in mental terms. And if it isn't a one-person job, ask for the help you need. All right? Ask for the help you need. And if you can't manage help in the form of counseling or coaching or whatever you think part of the solution will be, keep coming back to the podcast. Keep coming back to and send me an email. Could we do a podcast on this? All right. This is getting in my way and I'm not having a lot of luck. I've tried this, I've tried that. It's good for me to know that you've tried and what you've tried. All right. Helps me understand from 23 years experience. I wonder if this is the key. You're not alone. You've got your Clutter Buddy groups now. Yay. All right. and you've got the podcast, and you've got me if you need to. All right, we have 5 minutes. Why don't we open up the mics, and for 5 minutes we can, there we go, I'm just, no. Okay, any questions, any observations, anything for 5 minutes? Sophia.
Hi, Miss Elaine.
Hi there.
Every Wednesday is church day. This hour. Okay. Yeah, I have to mention when it comes to uh the angst that you feel, especially when you start, it's overwhelming. But I do know when I realized something was wrong with me. Not wrong with me, but that I had this issue.
I'm back. You saw her back
Yeah,
go to that one because
yeah,
she knew that
yeah.
was going to be, yeah, not me. Yeah, okay.
I was like, something's not right. That's when I went, that was 20 years ago. That's when I went to, I made some calls, and there was no one and nothing here in New York City, and there still isn't really. But as YouTube University, my buddy Kimmy, get into a community, all that helped me because it's not about the clutter. I'm dealing with some trauma, some stuff I probably don't even remember. But what helped me, or what helps me now, I'm put a link in the chat. They have havening, like 5 minute havening that hugs yourself. That caresses. I don't know why it works, but it does. It's in the science. Meditation, EFT, and I found the shortest ones. And I do it like every morning when I'm behaving myself. I do it every morning. But that helped with the stress and the anger
Yeah.
and the anxiety because it's hormones. And I
Mhm.
didn't know. I thought I was dying actually when I tried to throw something away, and I was like, oh my God, I was shaking and I had
Yeah.
to go back and get it. But having an understanding and going to these free groups, Eventbrite, Facebook events, you can just type in whatever you're interested in. And YouTube University has been and the library. And that's how I got
Good.
Elaine's book.
Because you're
It's in the
right.
library.
That panic you feel, that overwhelmed you feel, is also supported usually by a hormonal bath of stuff internally that you need to um, like compress. You need to
Mhm.
get out of it. You need to let it either flow through you, or you need to give yourself something else. And all of the things you mentioned are excellent.
But I have to say, before I found these little 5 minute I did by mistake, I found out about meditation, did not know the science behind it. I read it in some book. I said, is this for real? TM meditation. So I have not missed. I may not clean my floor, but to deal with the stress, because it's in our body, as you mentioned, it's in
Mhm.
our cells.
It's
So I have a
invisible. Yeah.
meditation practice, so I don't miss that. And
Yeah.
I started breath practice last year when it really got ugly,
And
and
the
it
thing
really
about
helps.
the thing about the invisibility of that hormonal bath that supports the negative thinking, all right, and that overwhelmed sense, is that because it's invisible, we believe it's us. It isn't. It is what our body does under stress. And if we find a way, like one of the things that I support people in is, if you happen to be a water baby, get in the shower and just let the hot water, bathe it off of you, and watch the worry and whatever go down the drain. And then go back at what you were doing. Meditation, of course, is an excellent way as well. And there are a lot of led very affordable meditation groups. Um, what's her name? Rhodes. I can't think of her first name right now. The 10-Minute Mind. That's the one that I use because she has a theme every day. And it's amazing how that theme um, registers with something that maybe I want to process as well. And you can do anything for 10 minutes. And she positions this to be very, very affordable. And you can have it with music or without music, but and she's got a voice that is somewhere between silk and a hug. It's very easy to just, it just feels like a warm breeze.
Yeah.
And she's a very genuine person. So
But
if you
at that link also, I'm sorry to cut you off. I did put a EFT and also this person, she sounds just like how you just described the lady that you're talking about, but it's strictly for clutter and physical and emotional clutter. And
oh,
so that, and it's short. So it really does work. It really does work. I wish my shrink had told me that 20 years ago, but better late than never.
different, it's a different system. Um, and so a good idea might be, you've given me a good idea. Thank you, Sophia. And that would be, find whatever device, whether it's EFT or whether it's meditation or whether it's exercise. All of them do the same thing in a different way. And when you've got yourself recentered, good self-care, go and do your 15 minutes. Because if you could do 15 minutes of that, you can do 15 minutes of the thing that isn't sort of high on the list of, I can hardly wait to do it. And if it's challenging, you can go back and do another 15 minutes of meditation or something else, something that supports you, not distracts you. All right. You need support at that time, not distraction. I have to go now because I have two dogs here who are trying to, one is trying to sniff herself under the door. There's something happening. And I have some other things that I have to manage today. So you take care. We will see you next week, everyone.